In a dense forest, there lived a brave squirrel named Stella, known for her courage and adventurous spirit. She loved exploring every nook and cranny of the forest, always ready to face any challenge. In contrast, there was a mouse named Marty who was timid and fearful, often hiding in his burrow at the slightest sign of danger. One day, a fierce storm swept through the forest, causing havoc among the animals. As the storm subsided, Stella noticed that a large tree had fallen, blocking the entrance to Marty's burrow. Marty was trapped inside, too scared to even call for help. Stella, determined to rescue her friend, quickly gathered a group of animals to help move the tree. As they worked together, Stella called out to Marty, encouraging him to stay calm. Inside the burrow, Marty listened to Stella's words and began to find courage within himself. After hours of effort, the animals managed to shift the tree just enough for Marty to squeeze through. Once free, Marty was overwhelmed with gratitude and admiration for Stella's bravery and the teamwork of the forest animals. Realizing that courage comes from within and can be supported by friends, Marty decided to face his fears. He started joining Stella on her adventures, learning to be brave and embrace challenges. Over time, Marty grew more confident, and the forest animals began to see him as a symbol of newfound courage. The moral of the story is that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the ability to face it with the support of friends. It teaches us that courage can be cultivated through encouragement and teamwork, transforming even the most fearful individuals into symbols of strength.
In a lush green forest lived a kind-hearted rabbit named Ruby. Ruby was loved by all the forest animals for her generosity and willingness to share. She always made sure everyone had enough to eat, often giving away her own food to help others. In the same forest lived a raccoon named Ralph, known for his greed and selfishness. Ralph hoarded food and resources, never sharing with anyone, always thinking only of himself. One summer, the forest experienced a severe drought. The streams dried up and food became scarce. Ruby, concerned about her friends, decided to share what little she had stored for herself. She went around the forest distributing her food to those in need, earning their gratitude and respect. Meanwhile, Ralph continued to hoard his food, refusing to help anyone. He sneered at Ruby, thinking she was foolish for giving away her supplies. "Why should I share what I worked so hard to gather?" he thought. "Let them fend for themselves." As the drought worsened, Ralph's food supply became dangerously low. One night, he ventured out to find more food but found the forest nearly barren. Desperate, he approached Ruby, who was sitting under a tree, sharing her last carrot with a group of hungry squirrels. "Ruby, can you spare some food for me?" Ralph asked, his voice filled with desperation. Ruby looked at Ralph with compassion and said, "I have little left, Ralph, but I will share what I have. Remember, in times of need, we must help each other." Ralph took the food, humbled by Ruby's generosity. He realized how wrong he had been to hoard his supplies. The next day, Ralph approached Ruby with an idea. "Ruby, let's work together to find food. If we combine our efforts, we can gather enough for everyone." Ruby agreed, and they set out to find food. With Ralph's cleverness and Ruby's perseverance, they discovered new sources of food, enough to sustain the forest animals until the drought ended. The experience transformed Ralph. He learned the value of sharing and cooperation. He started helping others, and soon the animals saw a new, generous side of him. The forest thrived again, not just because of the rain that eventually returned, but also because of the spirit of unity and generosity that grew among its inhabitants. The moral of the story is that generosity and cooperation lead to abundance, while greed and selfishness result in isolation and scarcity. Helping others in times of need strengthens communities and fosters a spirit of unity and kindness.
In a bustling meadow, all the insects had their roles and responsibilities, living in harmony with nature. Among them were Annie, the diligent ant, and Benny, the procrastinating beetle. Annie was known for her tireless work ethic, always preparing for the future, while Benny was infamous for his laziness and tendency to put things off until the last minute. One bright summer day, as the insects busied themselves gathering food and preparing for the coming winter, Benny decided to take a nap under the shade of a large leaf. Annie, carrying food back to her nest, noticed Benny lounging around. "Winter will be here before you know it, Benny," Annie warned. "You should start gathering food now." Benny laughed and said, "There's plenty of time, Annie. Why worry now when I can enjoy this beautiful day?" Annie shook her head but continued her work, knowing that preparation was key to survival. Days turned into weeks, and summer began to fade into autumn. While Annie and her fellow ants had amassed a substantial stockpile of food, Benny had done little more than laze around. One chilly autumn evening, the first signs of winter appeared as frost covered the meadow. Benny, realizing his predicament, panicked and rushed to gather whatever food he could find. However, the once abundant meadow was now barren, and food was scarce. Desperate, Benny went to Annie's nest and humbly asked for help. Annie, seeing his genuine regret, decided to teach Benny a lesson in a compassionate way. She invited him in and shared some of her food, but made Benny promise to help the ants with their work through the winter. Benny agreed, and for the first time experienced the satisfaction of hard work and teamwork. By the end of winter, Benny had transformed from a procrastinator to a diligent worker, understanding the value of preparation and effort. The moral of the story is that procrastination can lead to dire consequences, while diligence and preparation ensure a secure future. It teaches us that hard work and foresight are essential for overcoming challenges and achieving success.
In a lively pond surrounded by lush greenery, lived a persistent frog named Freddie. Freddie was known for his determination and hard work. He would spend his days catching insects, practicing his jumps, and exploring the pond. Nearby lived a toad named Toby, who was notoriously lazy. Toby preferred to lie on a lily pad all day, basking in the sun and waiting for food to come to him. One summer, a rumor spread among the pond's inhabitants about a legendary golden lily pad that granted any frog or toad who sat on it the ability to leap higher than any other creature in the forest. Freddie was excited and determined to find this lily pad. Toby, though lazy, was tempted by the promise of such an easy reward and decided to join the quest. Freddie woke up early every morning, searching every corner of the pond and asking other animals for clues. He faced many challenges, like navigating through dense algae and avoiding predators, but his determination never wavered. Toby, on the other hand, barely moved from his spot, occasionally glancing around and asking passing fish if they had seen the golden lily pad. Days turned into weeks, and Freddie's persistence finally paid off. One morning, he discovered a hidden part of the pond covered with thick water lilies. There, gleaming in the sunlight, was the golden lily pad. Excited, Freddie immediately jumped onto it, feeling a surge of energy and strength in his legs. Freddie quickly returned to the main part of the pond to share his discovery. Toby, seeing Freddie's newfound leaping ability, begrudgingly realized that he would have to put in effort if he wanted to enjoy such benefit. Determined to change, Toby asked Freddie for help. Freddie agreed and started training Toby. Though it was tough at first, Toby gradually improved. He began to catch his own food and explore the pond, gaining strength and stamina. Eventually, Toby was able to leap onto the golden lily pad himself, and the two friends celebrated together. The pond's animals noticed Toby's transformation and admired his newfound work ethic. The golden lily pad became a symbol of persistence and effort, and the story of Freddie and Toby was told to inspire others. The moral of the story is that persistent effort and hard work lead to rewards, while laziness yields no progress. By striving to overcome challenges and seeking to improve, even the laziest can achieve great things.
On a hot summer day, a hungry fox was wandering through an orchard. His stomach growled, and he longed for something to eat. Suddenly, he spotted a bunch of ripe, juicy grapes hanging from a vine high above his head. The fox's mouth watered as he imagined the sweet taste of the grapes. Determined to have them, he jumped up to reach the grapes, but they were too high. He jumped again and again, each time missing by just a little. The grapes seemed to taunt him, swaying gently in the breeze. Frustrated, the fox sat down to rest. He gazed at the grapes, his determination growing. He took a few steps back and ran toward the vine, leaping as high as he could. Still, he couldn't reach the grapes. He tried various angles and even thought about climbing the tree, but nothing worked. Exhausted and defeated, the fox finally gave up. As he walked away, he muttered to himself, "Those grapes are probably sour anyway. Who needs them?" The fox left the orchard, his hunger still gnawing at him, but he consoled himself with the thought that the grapes weren't worth the effort. He convinced himself that it was better to give up on something he couldn't have rather than continue to strive for it. The moral of the story is that it's easy to despise what you can't have. When faced with failure or something beyond our reach, we often convince ourselves that we didn't want it in the first place. The story teaches us to recognize our tendency to rationalize failure and to be honest about our desires and efforts.